The following is a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
Welcome to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Overcast day. This is Honda Race Day, and normally we've been giving you about a 30-minute pre-race, but the threatening weather, IndyCar officials have decided to step on the gas, and what we're going to do is get this race started immediately. In fact, we're going trackside for the command right now.
Please welcome to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Mr. Patrick Gray, CEO and co-founder of MoveThatBlock.com, and Todd Jolett, chairman and co-founder of MoveThatBlock.com, to deliver the most famous words in motorsports.
Brought to you by MoveThatBlock.com. Drivers, start your engines!
You guys hear me all right on the timing? You guys hear me all right on the timing?
All right, we hear the engines firing.
Engines are fired on the 26 cars in the field. Pippa Mann will not start today. More on that a little bit later. Across the top of the screen, the starting grid with Dario Franchitti in the pole position. In the Honda two-seater, it's Honda's fastest seat in sports sweepstakes, and it's back. Go to shophonda.com, sign up for your chance to start a race in the IZOD IndyCar two-seater. And that one, it could be driven by Mario Andretti. Today, it's Al Unser Jr. and the guy who's lucky enough from Indiana, Steve Mino. There he is. He's going to lead the field. He lives in New Palestine. He's going to get the ride of his life. Marty Reid, Scott Goodyear with you topside as we get ready to go racing. Let's check in down on pit road. First up is Rick DeBrule.
Well, Marty, if the other teams were looking for a sign of weakness out of Dario Franchitti coming to this new track, well, they've been disappointed so far. He's qualified on the pole, the 26th of his career, and that pole moves him into 9th on the all-time list past Paul Tracy. And after the morning warm-up, I asked him, how's the car doing? Of all the drivers I talked to, he's the only one who told me just fine. I don't think that's a good sign for everybody else. Jamie Little?
Well, Rick, this is the first time IndyCar has returned to New Hampshire in 13 years. The winner of the last race, none other than Tony Stewart driving for John Menard. Now, one thing is certain today. We will see a new face in victory lane. Not one single driver has ever raced here before, and there's a lot of drivers desperate for a win. Gary Gerald.
Jamie, there couldn't be a bigger challenge for young Graham Rahal going into this race today. He was a dominant car in practice, but yesterday in qualifying, he had a major bobble, nearly hit the wall, saved it, but consequently starts 23rd on the grid. So, in a fast car, on a track where it's tough to pass, what a challenge for Graham Rahal, and certainly somebody to watch from the back of the pack.
Well, especially, Gary, when you realize he was the fastest in the final practice yesterday. Time for us now to get the GoDaddy.com rules of racing.
And Marty, when drivers want a little bit more power, the Honda push to pass, to get 20 times to push that button and 12 seconds of power. Have to wait 8 seconds for the recharge time. We'll talk about that as the race goes on. Progressive banking here, it's changed since the Indy cars were here last. It starts off flat, goes from 2 degrees all the way up to 7, and they say the seams, all the drivers are complaining about the seams there, really make the cars on edge. We'll talk about that as the race progresses also. Car handling so important here. It has to be solid underneath you, consistent all the way through the fuel run. Drivers are worried about that here today. And traffic, you have to anticipate traffic. You have to make sure you make the right choice, high side, low side, tight turns here. We'll watch that as the day goes on. And if this race does go green all the way through with no rain delays, we expect a 3-stop race. That may change, obviously, once we hear about the weather.
Let's check in on our onboard cameras. We've got one with Diana Kirkpatrick. She's going to be starting in the 15th position. Moving farther forward in the field, J.R. Hildebrand also has one of the onboards. He's in the 11th starting spot. Charlie Kimball in the number 83. And notice the 3D graphics that they've put on his car. It's a pretty cool look. He's going to be starting 10th. Elio Castroneves from Team Penske starting in the number 9 slot. And his teammate also, Ryan Briscoe, has an onboard camera in the bright yellow number 6 Penske Motorsports machine. And our pole sitter, best view of the house, Dario Franchitti. And you notice he has selected driver's right. So he is going to be on the outside heading into turn number 1. Pace car lights are off, and they head into turn number 3. The progressive banking that Scott mentioned, the sharpest point is 7 degrees. Down on the bottom, it's so flat, the guys say they cannot run there. Coming out of turn number 4, the IZOD IndyCar Series from New Hampshire is green. trouble in the corner as they come out of turn number 2. The 27 of Mike Conway collects Graham Rahal. The one thing Graham was worried about strikes him in lap number 1.
All comes down because he did not get that good qualifying lap yesterday. We talked about him being the fastest many times throughout the day. Was fastest in final practice before qualifying. One bobble in turns 3 and 4, and his qualifying put him back towards the back of the pack. You can see the frustration because he knew he had wheels underneath him today, Marty, that he could have won this event.
Coming off a 24th run last week at Mid-Ohio, 25th at Edmonton, 13th at Toronto. Just not been the kind of season that Graham has wanted. Of course, there were those bright moments. 3rd back at the Indianapolis 500.
Now, a lot of movement here very early on. You can see the car starting to go sideways there. We'll have to see who that is. Starting to go around. That's Mike Conway, the 27. And as he comes back off the track towards the infield, unfortunately, Graham was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Remember, the very first lap, tires are cold. Temperatures are a little cooler here today than they have been the past couple of days. Also, cars in front of you really disturb that air in the wings.
Here's Danica Patrick's view.
Outside.
Very busy ahead. See, he looks like he just goes to get on the power, Marty. And those cold tires, the back into the car would not accept it, spun the tires, and away it goes, right out from underneath them.
And you saw for a moment there, Danica was completely blind, as many other drivers were. This could have been much worse, but it's bad enough for Mike Conway and Graham Rahal, as both of them are out of this race. We're going to go side by side. We're under our first caution here, as we've just knocked down just 2 of the 225 scheduled laps at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Under our first caution here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the 2-car crash involving Mike Conway and also Graham Rahal. Both cars are being removed from the track. Take you back and show you exactly what happened again. Ooh, looked like Tagliani may have got the wall. And a little further back as well. One more car.
Well, anytime stuff like happens on the very first lap, you're really trying to get an opportunity to find a clear place. Looked like about 4 wide there on that start. Remember, cold tires, low temperatures. Mike Conway, the 27 machine from Andretti Autosport, just goes around, and Graham Rahal right there turns around and collects him because he really had nowhere to go.
Well, it gives us a quick moment to come topside and welcome you. As we said, we're trying to speed everything up because weather is approaching. But let's talk about the championship update for you so you know exactly what's happening as we come into today's race. The man who's sitting on point right now up front, Dario Franchitti, is leading Will Power in the championship chase. Now that's based right now as we are getting ready to go back to green flag racing as they are going matching up side by side, and there's Will Power right now shown in 13th position, so he's got a lot of distance to make up as we now get ready to go back to green flag racing. They're trying to hustle this baby up. In fact, the cars are already into turn number 3, and as they come through turn number 4, side by side, here they go, green flag in the air, and we're back racing. And we got another spin. Elio Castroneves, he is now into the very same area where Graham Rahal ended up, but he may be able to keep it running.
Well, if he does, he obviously has some damage on the rear of the car. Sounds like he may have just turned that off, Marty. Maybe he knows that the rear suspension probably is heavily damaged. No,
I think we're okay. We didn't damage anything.
You heard him say that he stalled it.
I'm not so sure about that. If you knock the toe, which is the angle of the tires out on these cars whatsoever, they just won't handle very well. And when you make an impact like he did, he has to know he's going to have knocked something out.
Let's go back and take another look, see what happened to Elio. Turn 2 has been treacherous so far.
Well, there again, when you're trying to get on the gas coming off the bank, remember, it's got a little bit more banking in here now than it did previously. Charlie Kimball was very lucky there because he just got missed by the number 3 of Elio Castroneves, and you saw the right rear damage that seems to have appeared from hitting the Armco barrier. All right, let's ride along with Elio and watch this.
All clear.
See, hear him getting on the gas just a bit too soon. The tires are not up to temperature, Marty. Same scenario as Mike Conway.
On board with J.R. Hildebrand.
Hildebrand did a great job there.
And you notice JR got a little loose coming through too as well. So they're trying to get Elio refired, and he's heading back. And the first caution, of course, was just a few laps ago, the very first lap of the race. And Graham Rahal was involved along with Mike Conway, and Graham is with Gary Gerald.
Well, Graham, we all knew what a challenge it was going to be for you and your team on this day. How close were you to being able to avoid all of that?
We were hopeless. I mean, the spotter just said, go low, go low. You know, I couldn't see anything. All I saw was smoke. This is just our luck. I mean, it's really frustrating for the Service Central team. I mean, we dominated this weekend. And, you know, to leave here empty-handed is just, it's terrible.
How do you deal with this type of frustration? Because now it's becoming a habit, unfortunately, for you.
I don't know. I mean, we like I said, we dominated this weekend. We were never outside the top 3 other than qualifying. Car felt great this morning. I thought we'd be able to march through. I got a good start. I was just trying to stay out of trouble. Like I said, spotter just said, go low, go low. That's all I know. You know, we just try to keep bouncing back, and the Service Central team keeps working hard. But to continuously leave these races empty-handed, it's just a testament to how frustrating the season's been. We've been so strong, and yet we've left so many tracks like this.
Thank you.
2 of the last 3 races, Graham has been eliminated in an opening lap crash here today and back at Edmonton. All right, let's talk about tires. Rick, what are you hearing down there in pit lane?
Boy, what I've been hearing from a lot of teams are cold tires are a problem. Danica came on the radio a little while ago. She said there's no question. The temperature of the tires is the issue. They were just warning Ryan Hunter-Rea the same thing. Don't try to push too hard until the tires come up to temperature. They think that's the problem right now.
Well, you notice the 22 of Thomas Schechter. He has taken over for the injured Justin Wilson. He is restarting in the 6th position. He's been one of the few that has been able to make it stick. He has improved 12 positions in these first sets of laps. And we're back to green flag racing again with Dario up front. And look at Schechter on the high side again.
Reminds me of what Tony Kanaan does many times on starts and restarts.
Side by side with James Hinchcliffe, and Hinchcliffe coming off a great run. Didn't get the final result he wanted back at Mid-Ohio last week, but he showed what he can do at the wheel of the car, and right now he is up front in that pack as well. Hinchcliffe in the 4th position. Schechter now up to 3rd. He is fighting it out with Oriol Servia.
Oh, tried to sneak underneath him, ended up having to cut across the back of the bow, and in that scenario he ended up losing the air. He'll take another shot at it here, going on the high side.
Settle in, start hitting your mark.
And Hinchcliffe, remember, the rookie from Toronto, Canada, a great driver. Really going to go to school here with the 22 of Schechter now getting past him, Marty.
Let's get an update on Thomas Schechter. Rick DeBrule.
This is really interesting because, to be honest with you, all weekend long, this team has struggled with this car. In fact, during the morning warm-up, he said, I think the only reason we're starting to improve is because the track is getting worse. It just happens to be coming to us. Suddenly, they are on fire. Now, I will tell you that Thomas Schechter came on the radio a little while ago and said, you know, if these restarts keep up like this, I'm going to be leading in no time.
He has done very well. He has been the biggest mover in the race, picking up 15 spots. Marco Andretti, the 2nd biggest mover, he has picked up 9 positions. Right now, everybody is chasing Dario Franchitti. Franchitti has opened up a 1.4-second lead. Checking in on the 82 of Tony Kanaan, the 9 of Scott Dixon. That is 6th, 7th, and on the right side, Takuma Sato in 8th.
And as we saw those cars entering into 3, you'll see them go over a series of bumps. The same thing here going into 1. Upsets the cars, and drivers have been working hard with their engineers all weekend to get the cars settled going over in there. Remember, you're entering into the turn about 175 miles an hour. Now, Dixon came off there just a little bit slow, the 9 car, and here we go, another fight going on for 3rd spot.
Hinchcliffe takes the spot away from Thomas Schechter. And right behind those two, Ryan Hunter-Reay is sneaking up on the 2 of them.
He's sort of gone quietly this weekend, Marty, Ryan Hunter-Reay, but he has been quick. Maybe not the quickest in the top 3, but certainly been strong throughout this whole weekend.
Took a look, thought better of it. And remember, the track flattens out down there in that low line.
Now, what a driver needs to do is to work on setting the driver up in turns 1 and 2 if you're going to take a shot at it down in 3 and 4. To watch Danica Patrick now entering into 1.
She is in the 13th position right now. Her teammate Marco Andretti right behind her. And we mentioned Marco has picked up a total of 8 spots now. Helio Castroneves, meanwhile, his crew is working just behind the pit wall. And Jamie, what's going on?
Well, they were. You see him on the right-hand side just pulling out, Marty. They took him behind the wall. The right rear toe link was bent. He also had damage on the right front side of the wing. So they took the nose off, replaced that, and they fixed the toe link. It has been a nightmare day for Helio, who's making his 200th IndyCar start with Roger Penske. He's multiple laps down now. You see there in 24th, Marty.
He is 12 laps down to be exact, and he is in a contract year, and it's not been the kind of results he's been looking for, Scott.
And also back late April, he ended up finding out that he, although won the criminal case with his income tax evasion program back in the spring, or back last year, he now is currently undergoing a civil case, and I think that's put a lot of pressure on him. We've not seen the same Helio Castroneves this year as we have in past years, and learning about that late April, maybe that's why he didn't have a strong month of May. He has not had a real strong season so far this year.
See the action going on right there with that new colors, the Snapple colors for the 26 of Marco Andretti. He is being hounded by the 83 of Charlie Kimball. That's further back. It's Dario Franchitti leading this race at New Hampshire. Great action here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You saw it side by side as Charlie Kimball had a run on the 26 of Marco Andretti, was not quite able to finish the pass, and that is back for 14th and 15th on the racetrack.
Battles all the way around this racetrack right now. You can hear him going up and down the gearbox, which is really impressive.
Now they are 20 seconds behind the race leader, and that's how good a race car Dario Franchitti has. His lead over second place Oriol Servia, 5 seconds. That's the 9th race Dario has led this year. That's the most of all drivers. Also the 7th consecutive race that he has led, as we take a look at his Firestone telemetry. And let's also take a look at the Firestone season lap leaders, and that backs up what we were just talking about by over a 2-to-1 margin over Will Power, with Dixon and Kanaan 3rd and 4th.
So strong, Marty. Just look how smooth the car is. His steering wheel is smooth. So right along now, watching the Firestone telemetry, tries for the high side. Remember we talked about on the opening, watching the traffic decision, whether you go low, whether you go high, you have to make the right decision. His car comes off so strong off the turn, he's able to actually get a draft very quickly and then dive into the drivers on the left-hand side, inside.
Well, he just put E.J. Vizo a lap down as we focus back in on the battle with Marco and Charlie Kimball, the best one we've got going on the track. And they better watch out, because Vitor Meira is behind them in 16th, and then it's going to be the race leader coming after the two of them. And that gives you an idea. There they are. All 4 cars in your screen. Check on the battle for 10th. Lap traffic playing a role in this. Danica Patrick going underneath Alex Lloyd. Lloyd in 21st, 1 lap down.
Clear.
Danica in 11th. She was fighting there with J.R. Hildebrand as he got the better of that. Now they're coming up on Ed Carpenter. It has been a terrible weekend for Ed Carpenter. 2 spins, one of them collecting 2 other cars. No major damage, but it did collect Charlie Kimball and Danica Patrick yesterday.
They've been struggling for grip. They were changing shock absorbers and springs in the back of the car the other day, just looking to make the back end of the car comfortable so he could get on the gas and carry the speed out of the turns. Does not look like they found the answer for this race.
Danica Patrick right now in the 11th spot. Will Power is in 12th. That's right, the man who's second in the points coming into this race, and right now would be 97 points behind unless he can start moving forward. It was a 62-point gap when the day started. And there is Will Power. And when we talked to him a couple of days ago, he did not sound confident that he had a good race car.
Negative. Danica's the next one.
Get to hear Tim Cindric speaking to Will Power, telling him, now watch here, Ryan Hunter-Reay underneath Oriol Servia. Remember, you talked about the car is very difficult on the bottom side. The grip is a little higher sometimes up because the banking's a little higher, but he looks like he might be able to complete this. Drivers say that when you get on that low side, it makes the car want to slide up to the top lane.
Servia manages to hold off the charging Ryan Hunter-Reay. Let's get more. Jamie Little.
Oriol Servia having a heck of a weekend so far. His best starting position all year, started on the front row. Now, something this team opted to do in practice, he said it was taking so long for the tires to get warmed up and to get grip. They actually stuffed every set of tires. They have about 7 sets out here for the race. He and his teammate both did the same thing, guys, and it's been working.
Second, third, and fourth on your screen as you finish up, Jamie, as these guys are coming into lap traffic. And they had cut the margin to Dario Franchitti, because he had to fight his way through all this traffic, to down to 2.1 seconds from 5, and now they've got to do it.
And when Jamie was talking about drivers scuffing the tires, that's they just simply take the car out on the racetrack, do 2 or 3 laps to take the shininess off those tires, and then bring them in and get them ready for the race. Hopefully that allows you to get those tires up to temperature and grip maybe a lap or 2 sooner than you would when you first put them on if they were new.
Battle has settled down, at least for the moment. You know, we should let you update on the push-to-pass situation, as Ryan Hunter-Reay has actually used the most so far. He has used 6. And we ought to explain it one more time, as here comes Hinchcliffe right on his back.
Well, and Hinchcliffe's looking on the inside, and what you end up doing if you want to try and get by somebody you're having difficulties, you push the button on the steering wheel and you get a surge of power going forward. Now remember, it just lasts 12 seconds, and hopefully it's enough to allow you to get by. It's like pushing a button on your game console at home, and drivers love it. You just push it, but it's like a credit card, or a debit card, I should say, really, Marty, because what ends up happening, if you use them all up at the beginning, you'll have nothing left at the end of the race.
Let's check in again on our race leader, because there is Dario Franchitti as he is closing in on Alex Tagliani. Tagliani, if he goes a lap down, he's in 13th spot. That's how good a car the number 10 has underneath him right now. There's your top 5. We've knocked down 42 of 225. The great thing about side-by-side, you saw James Hinchcliffe get around Oriol Servia for second position. As we talk a little baseball coverage of the Major League Baseball Sunday night, it's 8 Eastern as Troy Tulowitzki and the Rockies take on Albert Pujols in a Cardinals team in a tight NL Central Division race. And then on Monday night, it's Brian Wilson and the Giants facing Dan Uggla, currently on a 33-game hitting streak, and the Braves. ESPN2 at 7 Eastern. It's Major League Baseball on ESPN Sunday. ESPN2 Monday night. Both games available also online at ESPN3.com. As you ride on board with J.R. Hildebrand, let's check in on our race leader. Remember when we told you it had gotten down to 2.1 seconds because Dario had to work his way through the traffic? And now the guys that were in second, third, fourth, well, guess what? The lead's back up to 9.2 seconds. And look who is the next victim to get lapped by the race leader. That's the man in second place in the points, Will Power.
And Will Power knows from listening on his radio, his team would have told him the leader is coming up behind you. Franchitti's coming up behind you. He's going to pedal as hard as he can to not go down a lap. That's his goal right now. He's hoping that maybe a yellow comes along soon. They can go in and make some changes on the race car. He can stay in the lead lap possibly. He's got to get something better underneath him to drive. It's not a fast race car right now.
You saw Dario go around Simona Di Silvestro in the 78. She is now 2 laps down. As we check in a little bit farther back in the field, Ryan Briscoe going around Alex Tagliani. And there is Danica Patrick as Briscoe and Danica running 9th and 10th on the racetrack. checking the push to pass. Thomas Schechter, he's running in 6th place right now. He's still the only driver in the top 10 that has not used a push to pass. And look out, side by side, that is oh so close. And finally, Ryan Hunter-Reay has to lift.
Oh, he knew that the car was sliding up from the bottom. He understands that because he's driven down there himself. And Takuma Sato was on his way up there. They were going to collect each other.
Sato takes over the 4th position, bumps Ryan Hunter-Reay back to 5th, almost literally. And then right behind, there you see Tom Schechter, Tony Kanaan, as they're battling also, as is they're side by side, fighting it out.
Wheel to wheel, 175 miles an hour.
That's the battle for 6th. And they've got the slower E.J. Viso, teammate, to the 82 in front. Here comes Scott Dixon as he is trying to get back into the mix. Now, this is all 17 seconds behind the race leader.
And you saw the 22 of Thomas Schechter can get into the middle of the turn, but ends up, unfortunately, as we see the 10 of Dario Franchitti put Will Power 1 lap down.
I want to ask you psychologically, what does that do to Will Power right now?
Well, he's deflated. I think we started talking about that a second ago. You know, you can just see the difference in his confidence level now than it was a few races ago. I think he knows 2 things. Number one, he's falling behind, but he honestly, and he told us, you know what, we don't have a fast race car right now on ovals or on road courses. And he said, I'm just not sure if we're going to get the job done.
Well, as most of you were watching the race over in Watkins Glen, it has been in a steady rain delay. If you're tuning in with us, we welcome you to our race as Dario Franchitti has led every lap so far as we're working lap 58 of 225. We, too, have a threat of rain. In fact, you see just a few sprinkles on our lens. Not enough, though, to slow down the racing, and it has been fast and furious as Franchitti's lead is 12 seconds over James Hinchcliffe, Oriol Servia 3rd, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Takuma Sato rounding out your top 5. That is Danica Patrick. She is in 7th position, trying to track down that bright yellow car of Ryan Briscoe, who is running in the 9th position. Pit stops are coming. We're going to step aside. After this message from our ABC stations, we'll load them up and see what happens. Maybe we'll have our first round of green flag pit stops here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at New Hampshire on ABC. Brought to you by Verizon. Keep up with the sport you love with enhanced video quality through the speed and power of Verizon's 4G LTE network. IndyCar Mobile, only from Verizon. IZOD. Visit IZOD.com to find the latest in IZOD color and performance. And GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between.
Back here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, you're looking at our race leader. That is Dario Franchitti. He has a 6.6 second lead as now again he's finding himself fighting through traffic. And as we check in on the battle for 6th place, Tony Kanaan and Scott Dixon going after each other. Right behind them, you've got Ryan Briscoe and Danica Patrick. So all 4 for position. We have a total right now of 11 cars on the lead lap.
As the race progresses, it looks like Danica's car is starting to work better. They're trying to navigate through traffic past Simona Di Silvestro there.
On board with Danica as Briscoe's going to go on the high side of Dixon. And he gets him.
And Dixon knew that Danica was looking, so he starts to run just a bit of a lower line to take a run going into turn 1.
Check in on the race leader, Dario Franchitti. His lead is 5 seconds over James Hinchcliffe.
Feels like a little understeer through the middle of 3 and 4, but then a little bit loose off the whole thing. And 4.
Complaining about understeer going through 3 and 4, but we've noticed when we've been riding on board with him, it looks like maybe then the car catches in the middle of the turn. His Servia is now in for service. Jamie Little.
James Hinchcliffe is in so far, having the best race he's had all year in the IndyCar Series. He has one fast race car, says it is pretty good. No changes expected. 4 tires, they're going to fill it up with fuel. He's the first guy to come down pit road as sprinkles are starting to fall, guys.
Danica Patrick brings it in. When I talked to her before this race, she was saying she needed to survive this. She's doing a great job so far.
Well, you saw Hinchcliffe as they were having problems. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Waiting for Scott Dixon. He has the luxury of the first pit box, but this car clearly hasn't been working the way it was in the warm-ups earlier today. They have not gone with scuff tires. They're going with stickers. He'll have a 40-foot pit box to come into. Compare that to the 35-foot pit box at the last event at Mid-Ohio.
Race leader is coming in. Dario Franchitti peels off here as we are working lap number 72. And he makes his way that long stretch. Each of these pit boxes 40 feet in length. Rick DeBrule, you've got it.
Well, they were concerned a little bit. He says as the race goes along, it's actually getting a little loose. But overall, they're very happy with it. Early on, he was saying it was fine to get a nice clean pit stop and get him away.
7.3 seconds, a good stop.
Very strong. Probably some tire pressure adjustments done on that car for him as we see Dixon starting to come in now. We started to say the 10 car started to get loose in the middle of the turn.
And he's coming to Gary Gerald.
Focus on flare.
Routine service for Scott Dixon. He had hoped to be a contender. He wanted to take the momentum of the victory in Ohio to a podium finish or better, and a close call. Kimball cut right in front of him getting out of the pits, but he got away cleanly. Rick.
J.R. Hildebrand clean so far in this race. Important, brings it in. They get a nice clean stop. No major adjustments. He's away.
7.4 seconds, a good stop for the National Guard team. Ryan Briscoe's in, Jamie.
These Penske cars have been struggling this weekend, but the 6 of Ryan Briscoe has been the best. No changes expected. He's pretty happy with the car. He fell back a few positions, but was able to retain a couple. His teammate, the 12 of Will Power, he is so frustrated. You guys nailed it. He has just had an awful weekend. Only the second time in a year and a half he's qualified outside of the top 5. He said no changes. They're just lacking speed, and that is the problem with the Penske cars this weekend, Marty.
Yellow on the track as we have moisture in the air, and it is falling, unfortunately, on this racetrack. So we are going to slow things down after a quick round of pit stops. Dario Franchitti is shown as your race leader. Ryan Briscoe did lead for 2 laps during the cycling of the pit stops.
Now for Franchitti, he's had a fastest race lap of 163 miles an hour, but he was down to about 157, 158 at the end of that run. And we talked about having consistent car all the way through your fuel load. They probably made some tire pressure changes during that last pit stop to hopefully give him something that will last throughout the complete fuel run with consistency.
So all top 15 cars have made their pit stop here, and so we'll cycle through and get everybody reorganized as we'll go side by side. And if you're wondering, official race is lap 113. We're working lap 77, and we've got some moisture in the air. Back here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, our third caution, this one for a light rain, as track officials want to make sure that everything is safe out there. Dario Franchitti is your race leader over Takuma Sato, Oriol Servia, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and James Hinchcliffe. Let's check the calendar while we've got a chance, because the NASCAR Nationwide Series will go across the border just 4 hours by car from here in New Hampshire to Montreal, Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series will be at the Pure Michigan 400 next Sunday, noon Eastern, that too on ESPN. The American Le Mans Series will be at Road America next Sunday, 4:30 Eastern, here on ABC. Then Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals presented by Lucas Oil next Sunday at 10 Eastern on ESPN2. And the next IZOD IndyCar Series event will be coming your way from Sonoma, Sunday, August 28th, 4 Eastern, courtesy of our friends over at Versus. And if that race is as good as this one, they're going to have a great one. There you saw Dario Franchitti. There's Takuma Sato. This team has really made a turnaround this year. How about it, Rick DeBrule?
Yeah, indeed, and it's been a lot of coaching on the part of Jimmy Vasser. Let's talk about, first off, the coaching you gave to him about the cold tires coming out of that last pit stop.
Well, we crashed at Iowa after our final stop, and 2-3 laps into the run. So just reminding him, not to make the same mistake again. He's doing a great job. It could be a race till the rain. So if we can make it to 113, it'll be a race. So we're focused on that too.
Dario seems to have been able to run away from everybody else so far. Is it just going to be one of those days, or do you think there's any way you can reel him in at this point? Any tricks in the game? I
certainly hope not, but he's had everybody covered all weekend, and his car looks extremely well in traffic. We'll see. Try to keep Taku's head in the game here.
All right, Jimmy Vasser has been coaching Sato through all this. At one point, he started calling Sato the Oval Meister after his pole. And I asked Sato, I said, are you really comfortable on an oval again? He said, no way.
Yeah, he had the pole position back at Iowa. As we shift over to Team Penske right now, as we'll check in on all of the Penske cars. There they are, 6th, 12th, and 24th right now. And it's not the kind of day that Team Penske would like to have. How about it, Jamie Little?
No, it's literally raining on their parade, both in Watkins Glen and here, Roger. I know these cars have been a little bit down on power all weekend. All three teammates, they've been working in different directions to try to help that. How would you assess how the race has gone so far for Ryan?
Well, I think Ryan's got a real good car. I was impressed the way he moved up. We took our time at the beginning, but we're running competitive lap times. It looked like Dario's in a class of his own, but, we passed Dixon there on the racetrack. So we feel good. It's a long way to go. Hopefully we can get this race in, also the one in Watkins Glen. I know the guys there are excited to run, but Mother Nature has its way, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and of course you're up here. You called the race for Ryan Briscoe here. You guys just made an air pressure adjustment in the right rear. How much do you expect that to impact you once we get going green here?
Well, it was real good, he said, through 1 and 2, and a little bit of understeer coming off of 4, so we changed the right front, but we should be good. Unfortunately, I think Mother Nature's having a little pressure on us right now, but we'll wait and see.
Hey, it worked out last week as driver Brad Keselowski went to victory lane. Yesterday, Kurt Busch went to victory lane in the Nationwide Series, and he sure would like to go to victory lane today, Marty.
Roger's been there a few times in his career, that's for sure, as we are under this caution, our third one. And New Hampshire Motor Speedway, take a little history here. I don't know if most of you know this, but Jerry Gaffins is the Executive Vice President and General Manager here. And look at the guy on the left side talking to Bobby Rahal, because Jerry, in an earlier life, used to work for us, actually as a pit reporter. And he's now got the responsibility of running this facility. There he is. Let's talk to him, Gary.
That was only 23 years ago. Jerry, general manager of this race plant, and I know weather has just been a thorn in your side and the concerns here, but give us an evaluation of how this event has gone in welcoming the IndyCars back to this facility.
Well, first of all, that's a disclaimer. That was many years ago and many pounds ago, so I wish I had that look again. But, I grew up in Indiana. My mom and dad took me to my first Indy 500 when I was 8 years old, back in '69 when Mario won the race, and I've been hooked. I thought that was larger than life, and so to be able, I always wanted to be a driver. I drove sprint cars and stuff in the Midwest, and I thought I could make it to Indy, but I didn't do that. I chose this as a career, and it's going well. And then to have a race where we've got the IndyCar Series here at a track that we're promoting, it really feels good about it. And we're reintroducing a new product here in New England, and I think the fan response has been pretty good.
Well, we appreciate the hospitality. It's been a fun weekend for all of us.
Good seeing you, Gary. Thanks. And send that over. I'd like to look at that as motivation. It's a little workout training.
We're flashing back, Marty, to 1988.
Yeah, 7 races here at Loudon, and all of them back in the 90s, from 92 through 98. Bobby Rahal, Nigel Mansell, Al Unser Jr., Andre Ribeiro, Scott Sharp, Robbie Buell, and Tony Stewart were the winners of those events. This September, things are going to heat up in the city of Miami. Charlie's got 3 new angels, and they're taking down the criminals who are above the law. From executive producer Drew Barrymore, it's ABC's Charlie's Angels. It's all new Thursday this fall on ABC. Our race leader, Dario Franchitti, he has been the leader of 85 of the 87 laps. Ryan Briscoe led the other 2. We're under our 3rd caution because of a light sprinkle in the air. And this was Dario's conversation with his crew on the radio just a few moments ago.
So what's the deal with that 18 car? I thought when you're like multiple laps down, if you were fighting to stay on the lead lap, I understand it. Multiple laps down, it's literally I go low, he goes low. I go high, he goes high.
Something about the country he's from.
Okay, a little Scottish-English rivalry there. Let's go back and show you what Dario is referring to. James Jakes is in the 18. He is in 19th, 2 laps down.
Well, this is when, for Dario, he was having difficulty with his car. Now, he would have actually earlier in the race just driven on the inside there and felt confident in doing that, but this is when he started to have the back end step out on him just a little bit. Now, Jakes is not making it easy for him because he's driving down the middle of the road, going into the turn, probably because his car is not handling, and then getting back on the gas. So it is tough to try to make that pass when you're trying to get that done.
Well, Rick DeBrule has caught up with his team owner, Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, he's sitting here nicely in the over covering, so he doesn't have to worry about the rain that's out there. But let's talk first off about Dario and James Jakes. He was a little frustrated with Jakes out there.
He was, Jakes was a couple laps down, I guess, and he felt he should give him a little more room there. But, I mean, the further you come, the more guys you pass, the harder it gets to pass them. So, cooler heads prevailed, thank God.
All right, let's talk about how you guys have dialed in this particular track. There's been a lot of frustration this weekend as in between some of the IndyCar sessions, there have been a number of NASCAR-style cars out there, Hoosier tires, laying down different rubber. A lot of people had a hard time dialing it in, but not you guys. Why?
Well, you have that at every track, Rick. Where when there's other cars on the track, they put different types of rubber down. Fortunately, the Firestones kept the Target Nikon car where it's supposed to be today, and it wasn't really an issue. I mean, but anytime there's other rubber on the track, that could be a problem in any track.
But the good news, as I said, these guys have dialed it in better than anybody else. By the way, I should mention that the engineer for this team, Chris Simmons, is a race winner here. Back in his previous life when he was a driver, he won twice in the Formula 2000 series.
And as we close out on the Ganassi crew for right now, Franchitti up front in the #1 position, Dixon running 7th, Charlie Kimball 13th, and Graham Rahal, of course, in that first lap crash, listed as 26th. Stay with us. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations.
ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at New Hampshire on ABC. Brought to you by Honda, the engine supplier for the IZOD IndyCar Series. IZOD. Visit IZOD.com to find the latest in IZOD color and performance. And Firestone, the first name in Indy racing.
And we continue under this third caution here as they're trying to keep the track dry. It's a very, very light drizzle. And IndyCar officials are trying to keep it dry so that when it does stop, and it does look, based on the radar, we might be able to go back to green flag racing. There's A.J. Foyt. Of course, he won here as a car owner years ago, back in the 90s. So did Roger Penske. And we already mentioned Robbie Buell was actually driven here and ran. In fact, why don't we just show you a little history of the 7 years here at New Hampshire.
Bobby Rahal takes a look at the twin checkered flags and is the winner, the very first winner ever here in New England. So Nigel Mansell celebrates his 40th birthday with a win at New Hampshire. Allinger Jr. picking up the lead in the last 5 laps has taken the win at New Hampshire. Ribeiro now running at a record pace. Checkered flag for Andre Ribeiro. Look at that! Fuel comes right up on him as Cheever slows. Fuel takes the win. Tony Stewart.
Good job, buddy. Good
wins
job.
the 200.
You see Tony's pretty excited about this victory.
A couple of things to point out there. Andre Ribeiro, he is now the agent for Anna Beatrice, who's running in 21st. Bobby Rahal, you see there, his driver, Pippa Mann, she had a pretty hard crash yesterday, and they took her to the hospital. She's going to Indianapolis for an MRI on her back for Monday. Then they withdrew the car, and as you see, we mentioned the other 3. In fact, why don't we talk to Robbie Buell? Rick?
You know, that wasn't just a victory for Robbie Buell. That was his very first victory. What are the memories like for that race here?
Well, the memories of that race obviously are good memories, but I'd also been hurt prior to that event, so I'd missed a couple races, so that was my first event back. So that was a nice way to come back after ringing my bell.
All right, so you guys, let's see, you've got a race winner here. Larry Curry's on the team, has won twice here with a couple of drivers. You've got Andre Ribeiro, who's the manager for Beatrice. You guys have the most experience. You should be running away with this thing.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. That isn't that good of you. You know, this is a tough place. You know, we get around here in 22 seconds, and you know, if you get behind or somebody pushes you up the racetrack and you just lose that car a little bit, I mean, look what Franchitti's doing out there right now. I mean, he's just coming around lap after lap. So for being in the Iparanga car right now, we got to get a lap back, and hopefully that will sequence through. We get an opportunity to do it.
It's a learning experience out here, even though they have all that experience. Gary Gerald?
Well, it's a pleasure to be able to be on the scorer's stand with one of the great names of all time in IndyCar racing, and of course it's the legendary A.J. Foyt. And A.J., you were here in the 90s when the IndyCars ran here for 7 years at this particular track. Now back, how much has the sport changed in that time?
Well, it's quite a bit different. At that time, you know, we had our own motors we were building. You know, we won the race with Scott Sharp and Davey Hamilton, but you know, everything's going good. It's so much closer today than it was then, and your hands are kind of tied what you can do and can't do, and we're just off a little bit. But nowadays, if you're off a little bit, it's hard to even run in the top 10, so you got to be right on because, you know, look at what a great team Roger Penske got, and look how they're kind of struggling today a little bit. So, you know, we've been struggling all year, and this is the first time back for Vitor, really where we had a full season. Last year was partly a season, and he's coming back pretty strong, you know, after risking it Indy and breaking his back. But I think you'll see better things for the end of the year. At least.
Are you still having fun, AJ?
That's the reason I got Larry, my son, running the big operation. Yeah, it's fun, but not when you're running like we are. That ain't AJ style.
Once a competitor, always a competitor. Thanks, boss.
You ask him an honest, straight-up question, he's going to give you an honest, straight-up answer. That's what I love about him.
Well, you know, when we talk about next year's cars coming and the turbocharged cars, when the series first came here in 1992, the turbocharged cars were on track, and what a nice sound those engines had. And as we look at both AJ on the right and Larry on the left, we'll be getting to those new turbo cars next year. And then we went to the normally aspirated cars that we saw Tony Stewart win in. So two different cars in that era.
And the announcement made official that the aero package, now the new cars are still going to come online next year with the new engines for Chevrolet, and Lotus is getting ready to put theirs together, as well as Honda. But the aero packages, those kits are going to be delayed 1 year to 2013. And talk about the test back at Mid-Ohio as Dan Weldon. That's what the road course car is going to look like next year. Everybody will run the same aero package.
That car will be the car that we'll see all teams run next year, that body work, and it will change, as you mentioned. Those other body kit options will come online in 2013. That car that Dan drove had a Honda power plant installed because that was the first one that is ready. Chevrolet's coming online in about 6 or 8 weeks, and then the Lotus engine. And Dan said he thought the car was really, really nice, and he loved the new brakes on the car, so it should be interesting to see how those new ones work next year.
And we're hearing that the track is drying here, so we may be going back to green flag racing soon. And stay with us because we've knocked down a total of 99 laps scheduled for 225 here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Here to start the 2011 season is green. It is all about Dario Franchitti. Is this a sign of things to come?
The Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama is underway.
Will Power, you couldn't ask for any better.
Will Power goes to victory lane.
We are green at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Conway takes the lead.
England's Mike Conway will celebrate in victory lane.
Here we go from Brazil. Will Power showing the way once again. You simply cannot beat power. Will Power wins.
You are looking live at the world's most venerated racing venue.
No!
underway at Texas Motor Speedway.
Franchitti wins the first of the Firestone twins.
Green is out. Here we go.
Will Power, he was the man here in race number 2.
And the Milwaukee 225 is green. There is your race leader, Dario Franchitti.
Dario Franchitti wins again. The Iowa Corn Indy 250 is green.
Great move. Wow, he passed it. He surprised him. Marco Andretti ends the 5-year drought.
Honda Indy Toronto gets the green flag. Not as crazy an IndyCar race as I've seen. And Dario Franchitti is the winner. City Center Airport in Edmonton, Alberta. Power is just so good at street and road courses.
Will Power, the Aussie, will win for the 4th time this season.
At Mid-Ohio, the crowd is ready.
Scott Dixon kind of shoves him out of the way. Wow.
A dominating performance.
Scott Dixon, your winner here at Mid-Ohio.
And that gets you caught up on the season so far, as there's our race leader here. So we've run 29 laps in this current caution, and we are getting ready to go back to green flag racing. The last winner, of course, Scott Dixon. Here was his conversation with Mike Hull.
You know, Scott, we've always been pretty good in the wet. Maybe we should just ask for him to go green here.
At least it'd be racing, not just cruising around behind a pace car.
Copy that.
As you can tell, Scott, like every other driver out there, let's get this baby back on, and it looks like we're going to get it here pretty soon. How about it, Gary Gerald?
Like Hull, we always appreciate his rather dry sense of humor. I asked him, how do you keep tabs on weather situations like that? And he said, well, we have a high-dollar subscription weather service that creates a lot of paranoia.
Well, that's the area that we're in, and you can see there is still more rain in the area, but hopefully we're going to get that, what we like to call the vortex going, with race cars pushing it away with high speeds.
Looked like there was an opening just where we were, just up in the Concord area, so let's hope we get this going.
And we want to welcome everybody who tuned in from ESPN. Coverage of the NASCAR event at Watkins Glen postponed because of the rain. That's over there until 10 a.m. tomorrow, and you'll see that on ESPN. As there is Dario Franchitti. We'll reset it for you with Takuma Sato in second, Oriol Serbia third, Ryan Hunter-Reay fourth, James Hinchcliffe fifth, sixth is Ryan Briscoe, Scott Dixon is seventh, J.R. Hildebrand is eighth, Danica Patrick ninth, Tony Kanaan 10th, and Thomas Schechter 11th, and Will Power, the last car on the lead lap, in 12th position. And Power stopped just a couple of laps ago to top off.
Well, he's sort of thinking, as they always do at Penske, about if the rain comes, maybe they can stay a little longer than everybody else. It ends up being a washout. But you've seen the drivers weaving back and forth to keep some heat in the tires. You just saw them a moment ago start to accelerate and spin those rear tires. That's to get those a little bit more heat, even so the back end will not come around going into the turn one on the restart.
All right, pace car lights are out. We are getting ready to go back to green flag racing, and then as we do, we'll come through turns 3 and 4, and we'll tell you that this green flag restart will head into the IZOD speed zone. Enjoy the lap.
Green, green, green.
Wow, the side-by-side restarts. These guys and gals have been getting better at it every race. That was exciting. And there you see Scott Dixon in that number 9 car right now. He is running in 6th position. Right ahead of him is James Hinchcliffe, and right behind him is Ryan Briscoe and J.R. Hildebrand. That Acorn, number 18, is James Jakes. He is lap traffic. And there goes the 9 underneath Hinchcliffe. So Scott Dixon, he wasn't kidding around. He says, let's go back to racing.
Probably made some change in that pit stop we had.
Trouble. The 82 of Tony Kanaan, the 22 of Thomas Schechter. A big contact. And Tony is on his lid.
You okay, Tony? Yeah.
He is okay. We also have a car up into the wall in turn number 4. get a number for you on that as soon as we can. I believe it's the 26. It is. So there is Marco Andretti with heavy damage on his right front suspension. So we just go back to green flag racing, and our fourth caution is the worst of the bunch. The Hum Ultra safety crew trying to get the car up high enough that Tony can get out. You heard him say he is okay. Kanaan coming off that 5th place finish last week at Mid-Ohio, 4th at Edmonton, and of course the last time we were on the ovals he finished 2nd at Iowa. And there is Thomas Scheckter as he has climbed out. Remember, he had the great start at the race, picked up like 12 positions through the course of those first 2 quick yellows as he really got aggressive on the high line on the restarts.
Then we think his car probably started to go away on him, and he had not been quick ever since that time. So now we see the 82 machine of Tony Kanaan being turned over, and he'll get a chance to unbuckle and hopefully pop out of the cockpit. This is the nice thing about this series, Marty, is that they are there very quickly. I had it when I drove all those years, that if you do have an incident, that you know the guys that know you best are there usually under 10 seconds to help and assist you when you've had a crash.
Well, I always remember the story you tell when you had your back injury down in Brazil, and you were looking up at a guy and you knew exactly who he was.
Well, it was Dr. Terry Tramble, who you see back there also, and there's Mike Ollinger also. He's the director of medical services. Overall, as a driver, you just feel very trustworthy that the best guys are there that know everything about you.
Well, there's no doubt Tony Kanaan is the most physically fit of the drivers in, and no one will argue that point, and he is out and walking to the vehicle that will take it back. Here's a replay.
Oh, Tony on the low side, and then what's ended up happening with Marco, he ends up just getting squeezed from Thomas Scheckter, the 22 machine on the right-hand side, and so he ends up then getting into Tony, which then starts all this off, and that's why you saw the right front suspension damage on the 26 Sapple machine of Marco Andretti.
And there's no safer barrier on that inside portion of the wall, but thank goodness those tires were there. That absorbed a lot of that shock.
So the car's sliding around, getting into the tires and up and over. Now, if the safer barrier was there, Marty, I would probably say that the car would not have gone on its roof. It probably would have just hit the safer barrier and then come back out towards the grass area. Now, here you can see the nose starting to get underneath the 22 machine of Thomas Scheckter, who's subbing for Justin Wilson. And then it comes back down, and then when it gets into the tires, both cars, just the angle of the 82 machine of Tony Kanaan just gets caught and ends up turning over.
Well, we're going to go side by side as they continue the cleanup here on our 4th caution, and we are at halfway, lap 113, so this race is official now here at New Hampshire. In the 1960s, change was on the horizon and a new breed of woman was coming of age. The glamorous, adventurous Pan Am stewardess. Buckle up, adventure calls. ABC's Pan Am taking flight Sundays this fall on ABC. Under our fourth caution after multiple cars, 3 of them get involved. The worst of it was Tony Kanaan and Thomas Scheckter. Let's take one more look at this.
Just no place for the 26 machine of Marco Andretti to go, because on the high side, the 22, as we mentioned, of Thomas Scheckter, low side, the 82 of Tony Kanaan. They both go through the grass. Unfortunately, Tony gets the worst of that. Now, that team was supposed to go off testing next week down to Sebring. Tony Kanaan and the KV team, as we see Marco Andretti starting to come in with his front suspension broken.
And now that we know that nobody was in that Porta-John, we can tell you that nobody was hurt in that Porta-John that got knocked over as a result. Let's check in with, there it is. Oh, golly. Rick, well, what do you have for us, buddy?
Standing by with Marco Andretti. Let's talk about what it looked like from your perspective. You said you were really just an innocent bystander.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bent right rear from the Conway incident, trying to miss Conway. And so I was just basically trying to stay out of people's way. I was in the middle of the racetrack. I didn't move my line, and I think Scheck came across my front and basically took me and Tony. But it's a bummer. I would have let him go by. It's just we had a huge vibration, so maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Takes him out of the race, but once again, at least it's nothing worse. Jamie?
And Tony Kanaan has been released. You're tough as nails, Tony. That was scary. What did you see?
I don't know. Got to ask Marco and Scheckter what the hell they're thinking. But I guess I was on the inside, and all of a sudden I got collected. So I don't know who hit who there, but they better have something to explain. I just think that when a car's a lap down, you shouldn't be racing the cars that are in the same lap. But glad that I'm okay. Sad for the guys. I mean, the car wasn't up there today, but it's still important points. But glad that I'm safe, and let's move on.
Frustrated, but okay. We're back to green, Marty.
Race leader is into the wall, and we have multiple cars now. And it looks like that is the 12 of Will Power as well. So on the restart, all of a sudden, the man who has dominated this race, Dario Franchitti, finds himself parked on the sidewall. There's the 4 J.R. Hildebrand. He, too, is involved in this. Our 5th caution. And the last restart, the double file, everybody was so clean for the entire lap, but not this time.
No, that was something that we've not seen before, obviously going in a straight line, so we'll have to catch a replay on that. And there you can see the right front tire with a lot of black around it from contact, and obviously flat for Takuma Sato.
He was in 2nd place.
And then Will Power is still on the track because it was the 4 of J.R. Hildebrand that ended up coming and hitting the inside wall. So now for Will Power, although you hate to see your competitors have a bad day, but Will's had quite a few of them, maybe he's going to start to collect some points.
You're right. It is Power still out there, and there he is. But he does have a little damage to his wing there, as there's something there on the left front. Let's go back and take another look.
Now the 10 on the left-hand side of our screen looks like they're both just going towards the center of the track. Maybe we'll get a view from that from down the straightaway, where we can see if one moved over towards the other, and possibly even the Takuma Sato. No, it was Dario Franchitti just coming over to maybe take away the lane of Takuma Sato on the start.
On board with JR.
Yellow, slow down, slow down.
Oh, yeah, and he did everything right, with the exception of getting hit from the right-hand side.
All right, on board with Dario. It has been 43 consecutive races where Dario Franchitti has been running at the finish, and it looks like he may have that streak broken today. The record set right now and still going is Danica Patrick. She has 45 consecutive. Stay with us. We'll reset it for you after this message from our ABC stations.
Where winners are celebrated, champions are crowned, and legends are born. Home of the biggest events in motorsports, ESPN and ABC.
And back here under our 5th caution, and you were looking at the points leader, the race leader, who had led 115 of the 123 laps here today. Here's the replay that took out Dario Franchitti.
Dario on the left-hand side of the track, Takuma Sato, and it looks like Dario just starts to move towards the center of the track, ends up catching the right front. And in that situation, the car just goes off into the inside of the wall.
Now, before the race weekend started, it was a 62-point lead. At one point today, where Will Power was running and where Dario was running, it was up to 98 points. Now, it has been cut back to 51 currently, with Will Power shown in 7th position. Oh, how the tide can quickly turn. And we'll wait for Rick DeBrule to see what Dario is going to do, because we do want to talk to him. Right now, Ryan Hunter-Reay is your race leader. Oriol Servia is now into 2nd. Scott Dixon has moved up to 3rd, last week's winner at Mid-Ohio. And James Hinchcliffe in 4th, with Ryan Briscoe and Danica Patrick rounding out your top 6. We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Pace cars off. They're bringing them up to speed. And the race leader again chose the outside. And you heard it. We're racing again. That was Will Power on the high side, taking a big risk, but he sees an opportunity and he wants to jump on it.
Well, he has to. He knows here's an opportunity for him to make up a lot of points, so he's now going to be much more aggressive on the inside of Charlie Kimball, who is down a lap or 2.
Kimball is 1 lap down in 9th position. There are 8 cars shown on the lead lap. We can't tell you, Takuma Sato did get back out. He is running in that last 8th position on the lead lap. On board with Danica Patrick. She's running 6th.
Trying to get on the throttle, waiting for the car to give her some confidence, some grip. She's going to take a look on the inside now. So you mentioned Charlie Kimball is down 1 lap. He's done just a great job here in the last few races, qualifying very strong, running very strong, really gaining a lot of experience. Danica gets the move completed.
Ryan Briscoe will be the next to try and get around Charlie. There you see him in the bright yellow and white Penske number 6. Check in on the battle for 2nd place with Oriol Servia and Scott Dixon. Servia in the 2, Dixon in the 9.
And although Dixon has not had a fast car over the run that he gets from start to finish on a fuel load, he does seem to be improving the car, and he's one of only 3 drivers that have had a lap at 163 miles an hour, the other one being his teammate Dario Franchitti, who's out of the race, and also James Hinchcliffe has also been up in that speed range of 163.
Well, Servia's best finish back at Milwaukee this year. Guess what? Another mile. He finished 3rd there. Rick has caught up with a very disappointed Dario Franchitti.
Disappointed and frustrated Dario. What happened?
I don't know. Takuma looks like he came up into my right rear in the middle of this straight. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why.
I mean, you had not had a problem all weekend. You had not put a wheel wrong all weekend.
And I still don't believe I put a wheel wrong. I mean, you know, I don't know why he's sitting so close coming up to the restart. I don't know. I mean, I get the jump here, and we're coming along, and he comes up. Look. I don't know what he's trying to do. It's not the first time, and it's probably not going to be the last time with him, but you know, it's when you have a car that's that fast, it's pretty devastating.
Dario Franchitti rarely at a loss for words, and frankly, watching that and feeling the frustration, he just wasn't sure what to say.
Well, Rick, I think when he gets back home and watches those races, as I know he does, because he's really a student of racing, you'll look at a seam that's in the racetrack, and I think you'll see his car start to go up towards the seam, which ends up being towards Takuma Sato. So I think when he goes back home, he'll look at that and probably change his opinion on that one.
There's your top three right now as the racing continues with Ryan Hunter-Reay leading Oriole Servia by half a second and Scott Dixon in third, and Will Power has now moved into the fourth position. He is 1.8 seconds behind this group. And there he is. It gives you an idea just how far back.
Well, and his car started to work for him, because I was just mentioning about drivers that have been able to run at 163 miles an hour plus, and he just turned in a mile an hour, 164, as did Oriole Servia and Scott Dixon. So the track seems like it's getting a little faster, and those top three right now seem to be able to distance themselves from Will Power and James Hinchcliffe.
There you see Ryan Hunter-Reay, only the second race that he has led this year. He also led back at Long Beach. Only the 10th race he's led in his IndyCar career. His best finishes this year, third back at Mid-Ohio last week, and then a couple of weeks ago at Toronto, a third-place run there as well. A very dejected Dario Franchitti. He knows that the points lead is narrowed. It's down to 45, and if Will Power can go on to win this race, well, the championship is big, and it's on. You saw it on side by side with Alex Tagliani coming into pit lane, and all of a sudden the back end of the car was on fire. He's okay. The car, we can't say as much. But the fire is out and the race continues. Let's go back and show you. What do you think erupted
in that
there?
scenario there? I think that the guys maybe weren't even ready for him being on fire when he comes on, because you can see how the fire escalates on that. The spotter should have been telling him on the way in, if he could have seen it, that the car was on fire, because it certainly is going to do a lot of damage with that. And the driver, yes, the team will tell you get out of the car very quickly, but the driver likes to stay in there thinking that it might be repaired and you can get back out.
So while they were taking care of business in pit lane, Ryan Hunter-Reay is taking care of business out on the track. He has opened up a 2.1 second lead over Oriole Servia. Scott Dixon is in third, and there goes Ryan Hunter-Reay around the 67.
The Ed Carpenter machine, the Dollar General machine, they've not been really as fast as they want to be here this weekend. We talked about them making suspension changes earlier in the show. They've just not been able to get the grip that Ed has the confidence. And right now, for number 28 with Ryan Hunter-Reay, he seems like he is able just to continue getting through the traffic nicely, Marty.
As we take a look at our Firestone lap leaders, you can see Dario Franchitti has led the most today, 115. Ryan Hunter-Reay, 28 and counting. Ryan Briscoe led 2 laps earlier in the race. Alex Tagliani is out of the car. Rick DeBrule's caught up with him.
Alex Tagliani, first, are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's a shame for the whole Bowser and Wilkins Sam Schmidt team, because I mean, we had a pretty good car early on, made some position, and I thought the balance was good. and we had some tires going up, and the balance went really to oversteer, so it cost us a lot of position at the time. But then we made some changes in the pits, and with all the attrition, I think we had a chance maybe to make some position back up. And I don't know what happened. I lost the brakes and also a fire in the car with maybe an exhaust problem. So it's a little bit disappointing.
Alex Tagliani had a rough weekend, but thought it was finally getting dialed in before everything just kind of went away.
And as you finished up, Rick, Danica Patrick went around Will Power, pushing Power back to 6th position. Danica now into the top 5.
And Power had a very strong car on the restart. And then as the laps continue to click off, he starts to go backwards. And you're on board right now with Danica Patrick. She's able to get back on the gas. Will Power, the 12 machine on the right-hand side. The Verizon car just is not able to carry the speed out of the turn. He's going to turn this good run that he had in there for a few laps probably into frustration. But as Tim Cindric, I'm sure, will be telling him, he just needs to be calm, cool, and collect as many points today as possible.
Danica goes around Alex Lloyd, who's 13th. 2 laps down. Let's get an update on Will Power. What about it, Jamie Little?
Well, that's right. You guys talked about how he was a lap down. He stayed out and he topped off with fuel on lap 101. Now he restarted in 7th. And knowing that Dario Franchitti is out of this race, that is the one driver he has had his eye on for the championship and for the win. It's like a shark that smells blood, and he will not back down. And you're right, Scott. Tim Cindric is all over him, telling him, back down, just be smart, be safe, we got to get points.
Right now, the gap would be 49 based on where he is running in this 6th position. But we still have 74 laps to go here at New Hampshire. Race leader is Ryan Hunter-Reay, looking for his first win of the season. As there you see, he's coming up on Vitor Meira. Meira is 1 lap down in 11th position. There are only 8 cars on the lead lap. Here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, you're looking at our race leader. That is Ryan Hunter-Reay. He has led now a total of 40 of the laps. As he is clicking them off, he has a 2.4-second lead over Oriol Servia. Let's talk a little baseball, because Sunday night baseball at 8 Eastern, we've got the Rockies taking on the Cardinals. And then on Monday night baseball, Brian Wilson, the Giants, face Dan Uggla. He's currently on a 33-game hitting streak, and the Braves, that's on ESPN2 at 7 Eastern. Major League Baseball on ESPN Sunday and ESPN2 Monday night. Both games are available online, ESPN3.com. Well, as you can see, Ryan Hunter-Reay is just continuing to click off the laps now. Let's get an update on his situation. Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, the problem at this point is they've been in the tires for a long time. It's a long stint. As a result, they're starting to go away. Now, let's listen to what Ryan Hunter-Reay had to say about what it's causing.
Separation again. Yeah, we only got 9 more laps. 9 more. Give me 9.
Yeah, Yeah, at one point he said the vibration was so bad he could hardly see. They've been coaching him through it, saying just hang in there, just a few more laps to get that stint. They said, reminded him, you're leading this race, work it.
He is leading. He pitted on lap number 70, and so did most everybody in that top 5 group. You drop back to Will Power in 6th. Remember, we told you he topped off right before we went back to green flag racing? He has 31 laps in hand on the race leader, and he's going to be able to stay out longer.
And touching on the tire situation with Ryan Hunter-Reay, sometimes you end up getting some pickup from the marbles that we say, the rubber that's coming off the tires that's on the racetrack, sometimes get onto the tires and ends up giving you a little bit of small vibration. You just have to live through it.
Danica Patrick down pit lane. Rick?
You know, it's been interesting. During the course of this weekend, she kept saying, I have yet to have an aha lap. One of those laps where you just feel it all came together. She said she thought this was going to be a survival race, dialing it in through the course of the race. And that's exactly what happened. She's been working her way slowly. So far, it's been flawlessly. And she's out after this pit stop.
And James Hinchcliffe getting the countdown, having a great weekend. He's been top 10, was fastest in first practice yesterday. He keeps telling the team the car is good. We don't need adjustments or tires, and they filled it up. Good stop for James Hinchcliffe.
8.4 seconds for both Danica and Hinchcliffe, and still continuing out there, the 28 of Ryan Hunter-Reay. His lead right now over Oriol Servia, 3.2 seconds.
And Marty, once the drivers complete these stops, they should be good to go to the end of the race.
Oriol Servia is now heading your way, Jamie Little.
He's been great all weekend on old tires. They've scuffed most of the sets that he has. He's saying the car has been really loose, not as good as his teammate James Hinchcliffe. They go to work on the car. You see the air gun there go up against the wall. 7.7 seconds. They change 4 tires to fill them up.
And the race leader is coming. Rick?
Ryan Hunter-Reay brings the car down pit lane. Remember, he has won on an oval, and Milwaukee dominated a Champ Car race years ago. This, if he could pull it off, would be his first IndyCar oval win. They go to work. The main problem he's got with the car right now are the tires. Just getting those new tires on, then they think they're going to be set. No other adjustments, and he's clear.
7.7 seconds on his stop compared to the 8.4 we saw a little bit earlier. There is Scott Dixon. He is your race leader now. He's our 4th different leader and our 4th lead change. He's going down around Elio Castroneves. Elio is 12 laps down as he had problems early in this race. As here comes the race leader, Dixon. Gary?
Scott Dixon early in his career was known as the Iceman. Always calm, always cool, always collected. Now he's trying to double up, coming off the road course win a week ago at Mid-Ohio. Can he do it here? Routine service, Michael. No changes. Dixon away cleanly.
8.2 seconds on his stop, and guess who has cycled into the race lead? Will Power. Remember, we told you he has 31 laps in hand over everybody else that was in the top 5. And there he is with Ryan Briscoe in 2nd place, and Briscoe's now going to peel off as well.
And probably the thinking with Will Power's car is that if we do get another rain shower and it was to stop the race completely, he would be in the lead.
Jamie, Ryan's coming your way.
Ryan Briscoe pulling into his pit box. Roger Penske, the captain, making the call. 1 turn of front wing for Briscoe. It'll be 4 tires. Fill them up. Quick stop. Good to go. 6.8. Impressive.
Very impressive. And also, Will Power now taking over the race lead. He's our 5th different leader. And if he could hold on to this, the points would be down to 27. It was 62 when we started the day.
Well, let's remember, if the race does go full distance, he does need to come in for more fuel.
Coming up on Ed Carpenter. Ed in 11th place right now, 1 lap down, about to possibly go 2. Takuma Sato is shown in 2nd place. To give you an idea, Takuma Sato last pitted on lap number 123. So he has laps in hand over the 12 car. staying out, as we mentioned. Jamie, what are you hearing from their camp?
Well, as we mentioned, mentioned, Will Power had topped off later than the rest of the field, so he had about 10 laps more. We've seen, obviously, all of the other cars for the majority already pit, so watch for Will Power to pit in 3 to 6 laps. So you watch Tim Cindric there on the right making the calls. It's got to feel good to be up there leading after the weekend Will Power's had.
Well, he's only got 5 push-to-pass boosts left on his car, and of all the front runners. And are you surprised that they may be coming in this early, or you think they just need the fresh tires? They're giving up too much on lap time.
Well, he may be, because he's actually running anywhere about 159, 60 miles an hour. They have gone a little bit quicker, but I think in this scenario you'd want to stay out there as much as you possibly can. He doesn't have traffic in front of him, and you run it as long as you can. The question is, did they put in a full fuel load last time they were in, or maybe did they just fill it up on a time stop? But when they pitted underneath that scenario, I'm sure it was right up to the very brim, and he needs to stay out as much as he possibly can and just continue running these laps off.
51 laps to go. As he mentioned, we 5th different leader of this race, and Will Power trying to seize the moment that was handed to him when Dario Franchitti crashes out on a restart. Side by side, Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick. That is for position. That is 7th on the racetrack. Now, both those cars are a lap down, at least until Will Power comes in for his pit stop.
Danica's car continuously seems to get stronger.
She's trying to work on Ed Carpenter. He is now in the 9th position, 2 laps down.
Obviously, she wanted to go on the inside of the Dollar General machine, the 67, the yellow car you saw there.
And here, gonna get hung up, and look at Briscoe trying to take advantage on the high side, but he also ran into the lap traffic wall.
And the car in front was the Simona Di Silvestro car. That's the car that they were all trying to get around, and now we'll have to take another shot at it. She's going to try the inside, going down the inside of Ed Carpenter. Will Ryan Briscoe follow? He does not get the pass completed.
Right side of your screen, Oriol Servia in the blue 2, ahead of Scott Dixon in the 9. Let's go back up front, check in on Will Power. He has now got a 4.7 second lead over Takuma Sato, but he has only 5 push to pass left. And Jamie, what are you hearing?
Well, Marty, I'll tell you what, the raindrops are falling. They tried to stay out as long as they could, but they pushed it to the end. The team is lined up. You see Will Power drop down onto pit road. He's got to slow it down. 60 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit. He got those points for leading laps there. Had to be tough to bid that up. Of course, like I said, you see Jimmy Vasser watching, but Will Power in his pit box, 4 tires. They don't have to fill it all the way up to go the distance. 6.6 seconds for Will Power. He's down and away.
So he gets his Sunoco fuel. He's back out. And Takuma Sato, remember, he was involved in the incident with Dario Franchitti. He is now your race leader, as he has got a 3.1 second lead over Ryan Hunter-Reay with just 45 laps remaining here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So this is getting interesting as we head down the home stretch. Stay with us. We'll be back after this message from our ABC stations. 39 laps to go here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in the IZOD IndyCar Series. You're looking at Takuma Sato. He is our current race leader. In fact, he is the 6th different leader. And you can see the most laps led by Dario Franchitti with Ryan Hunter-Reay with 47. 6 total lead changes, and a points leader is out of this race, and Will Power is running in the 6th position, and right now the margin would be 49 if nothing changes from here on out. Takuma Sato, we're hearing, is going to have to pit in about 3 laps, and it'll be his final stop. He's got a 9.5 second lead over Ryan Hunter-Reay, but Ryan can go the distance now. There is the closest battle we have on the track right now between Oriol Servia and Scott Dixon. That is 3rd and 4th. Saw the bumps that they hit as they head into the corners here. There's a set of bumps in turn 1 and again down in turn number 3. Nowhere near as wicked, the drivers say, as that bump over the tunnel at Iowa.
And also the other thing they have to contend with here is because of the progressive banking that goes all the way up to 7 degrees on the outside, the seams, drivers were complaining about, the cars move when they go over those seams. And when you're out in the track, you can actually take your foot and run your shoe over the seam, and you can really feel that. It really makes a disturbance to the car.
Just to let you know, as you look at those two, Oriol Servia has 8 push-to-pass left, and then Scott Dixon can hit the button a total of 6 times. And here comes Takuma Sato. He has pulled down just as expected here on lap number 190. And he's got to go all the way down to the far end of pit lane. And he'll make his way down to Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, we need to talk about the fact that he was not unscathed from that incident with Dario Franchitti. They had to come in twice to change a tire, the right front and the front wing. For the last few laps, I can tell you, Jimmy Vasser's been holding out his hands, waiting for rain, hoping for rain. They made a tire pressure adjustment because he said it was getting a little loose. They sent it back out. Very clean stop.
7.7 seconds, and that means the lead turns over to Ryan Hunter-Reay.
When Rick is talking about the car of Takuma Sato going loose, that's the back end wants to start to walk around on the driver as he starts to go through the turn. And usually as you continue to run throughout the race, sometimes the car gets worse. You can make changes inside your car with the tools that are provided. There's a weight jacker and also some anti-roll bars, and hopefully you can tune it to make it constant all the way through the fuel run, but sometimes that just doesn't work.
And you can see that Ryan Hunter-Reay is right on the back wing of Ryan Briscoe. We're on board with Briscoe. Briscoe right now in the 8th position, 1 lap down. He could be 2 down here pretty quickly.
Briscoe's had some great moves on the racetrack here this weekend and some great restarts, getting through traffic and making some great moves, but just doesn't look like he's got a car that he can keep the power on and the consistency through the turn.
Let me correct it. Briscoe will be going 1 lap down. Scoring was a little off, and now he is 1 lap down. So he is still in that 8th position. Let's take a look at the Firestone telemetry on Briscoe's car. We talked about the G loading. Just under 4 Gs going through those corners, and they're doing it twice every lap.
And in qualifying, we saw them hit just over 5 as a peak. And even Dario Franchitti said even during the runs, he ended up just getting a sore shoulder, and also he had to make some adjustments inside the cockpit, Gary Gerald.
Scott, we were talking earlier with Graham Rahal, who had the misfortune of being involved in a very early crash, that he said this G-load factor here is so extreme. He said, I train on a regular basis, do a lot of running, and then they put a 40-pound weight on my chest so that I could get used to handling a G-load. And he says it's been very difficult to catch your breath. I can only imagine what these drivers are experiencing now with under 30 laps to go in this event after pulling that constant load all afternoon.
7 cars on the lead lap. There is the race leader, Ryan Hunter-Reay. His margin over Oriol Servia, 1.2. Will go side by side at New Hampshire. 23 laps to go here at New Hampshire, and you're looking at the race leader, Ryan Hunter-Reay. There's only 7 cars on the lead lap. Why don't we go up to speed, get an update on those top 7. Rick?
Well, let's start off talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay. Just a moment ago on the radio, he told his crew he's starting to get that vibration back. They said, don't worry about it. This is the same place that it came in the last time. Remember, he was concerned about the tires. When they go away, they get a little bit of a vibration. They said, just keep running it. You're in the lead. You got to stay up there. Jamie?
And behind him is Oriol Servia. The car has been better after that last round of stops. They made a little bit of an adjustment, and that took away the loose condition. Now this team, Newman Haas, they've been here 4 previous times before, all in the 90s, and they have 1 win with Nigel Mansell. So you can imagine they have been fired up, and he only has 1 more position to go to get the win. Gary?
Scott Dixon, of course, got that first win of the season at the last event on the road course at Mid-Ohio. He's had 4 seconds this year. If he can maintain position, he would have his 8th top 5 finish of the year. They haven't done a thing to this car all day long. Both pit stops, it was tires and fuel. No changes whatsoever. He just soldiers away in that 3rd spot, Jamie.
And James Hinchcliffe back and forth. He said this track has been quirky, but he's been doing a great job. He's been smiling all weekend, saying it's a lot of fun to drive. It's extremely hard to drive, but he's young and he can handle it. And he's been happy in the race car every time they ask him if he wants any changes. Nope, he's good. He's never run this good in a whole race. There's a caution on the track. We have contact, guys.
I don't think it's contact. I think it's we've got rain in the air, and it is going to slow us down for the 2nd time today. Our 6th caution comes out here with just 19 laps to go, and Ryan Hunter-Reay was closing in quickly on Takuma Sato. He had a 22-second advantage over Sato, and they're running about 23 seconds a lap. It gives you an idea how close he was to going a lap down. So we'll keep 7 cars on the lead lap. So while we wait to see what happens with this light rain again, we'll step aside, go side by side here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Under caution for the 6th time, we've got rain in the air here, a light rain, as we've knocked down 209 of the 225 that make up this race here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It has been a lot of action on the track. Started on the very first lap as watch Mike Conway get turned around sideways, collects the 38 of Graham Rahal, and both of them are out before they even get down the backstretch. And the frustration from Graham Rahal's situation and his side of the coin. Elio Castroneves, he too has issues, slides across the track. Nobody else gets collected in this one. He had minor damage. They brought him back out. He ends up right now out there 13 laps down in 17th.
Very frustrating year for Elio Castroneves. And in this scenario here, 26 of Marco Andretti just gets sandwiched by the 22 on the top side with Thomas Scheckter and ends up taking out the 82 of Tony Kanaan, who ends up upside down. Tony would be okay. Damage even on the 26. He is finished for the day.
And then race leader Dario Franchitti on the restart. He'll be on the left side here on the driver's right. And contact with Takuma Sato. Sato has minor damage. He's able to get back into the race, but not the 10 of Dario Franchitti, and it has now changed the points complexion, as it was at one point well over 90 points difference with where they were running, but right now it is down to 47 with Will Power running in the 5th position right now. And notice that Scott Dixon is creeping into contention again because of the fact that his teammate is out. In fact, we talked to him about what it would take to get back into the championship race.
I'm not going to wish any bad luck upon anybody, but that's kind of what we need to get back in. You know, we're definitely a lot closer to Will now, 30 or 40 points out of the reach from him. You know, Dario is obviously a little further out, so that's you know, a different subject totally. But you know, you're never out until it's the end of the season.
And of course, the end of the season will be on ABC October 16th, as we'll have the race from Las Vegas. And right now, this one's not over, and IndyCar officials have said they're going to do everything they can to get it in.
ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at New Hampshire on ABC. Brought to you by IZOD. Visit IZOD.com to find the latest in IZOD color and performance. Mother's Polish. There's no shine like Mother's. 5-Hour Energy. 5-Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Visit 5hourenergy.com. And Sunoco. Fueling victories on and off the track. Here's to victory.
And Sunoco fuel will not be a problem for any of these racers, as we will have a total of 10 laps to go. And you can see Paul Blevins, the starter, saying 1 to go to green. So this is going to be the old-fashioned shootout. Let's reset it for you, because we're just coming off our longest green flag run of the day of 83 laps. It'll be Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to take the outside again. Oriol Servia second. Scott Dixon third. Fourth, James Hinchcliffe. Fifth, Will Power. Danica Patrick sixth. And Takuma Sato seventh. Those are the only 7 cars on the lead lap. And Michael Andretti not happy, obviously. His man's leading, and he liked the moisture. And now
No start.
they've called it off. And the word is it's because of the light rain in the air again. So what was...
And this is a nervous time as we watch Tim Cindric right now, who's calling the shots for the number 12 machine for Will Power.
Let me correct something. We were told initially it was because of moisture. It was because the cars were not lined up properly. So that's why we're going 1 more lap. So it looks like we are going to go back to green flag racing.
And this is where drivers will want to take advantage of the drivers that are around them. Now for Ryan Hunter-Reay, he only has 3 push to pass left in his camp. Oriol Servia 8, Hinchcliffe 7, Dixon 6, with only a few laps left to go. Does Hunter-Reay have enough to keep in front?
Again, it's Ryan Hunter-Reay, the race leader. He chose the outside lane. Oriol Servia trying to pick up his first win for Newman Haas Racing. Oh, and a spin all the way in the start. We've got cars going everywhere. And it includes Will Power. Danica Patrick spins. And you see Michael Andretti, he was complaining at the beginning of this because, and there's damage to Danica's car.
Moist track's probably just a little bit, that mist comes down. It doesn't take much with these slicks, Marty.
And this is really going to affect Will Power. Rick, let's check in. What's going on down there?
Well, I'm standing by what I will describe a very agitated Michael Andretti. You called this. You said that was going to happen out there.
Yep, and this is the worst officiating I've ever seen. Sorry, Brian, but this was bad. Really bad. Well, we lost the car and we lost the lead. I mean, this is just, you don't do that. It was wetter than when they threw the yellow earlier and they threw the green. I mean, it's just...
you came down, you appealed to the officials. Correct?
I tried. It doesn't matter. Really, really disappointed. I mean, they normally Brian does a great job, but this one, he really missed it.
Michael Andretti once again came down, was yelling at the officials. Ryan Hunter-Reay in the car was pleading, saying, this is stupid. I can't even put the power down. As a result, you saw what happened.
It was an all-skate session, that's for sure, coming down the front straightaway. And because of the way this track is constructed, you know, you don't have any room there because there's the pit wall that you see Will Power backed into. And, Jamie, what are you hearing from Tim Cindric?
I'll tell you what, for a good 5 minutes before they threw the green, Will Power was yelling, no, we cannot go. You see him frustrated. I have never heard Will Power use language like he did and scream like he did. He is going in to talk to the officials. He had a 20-point swing in the championship going. You see him try to get stopped. He's going to have a talk. He's frustrated, and they're saying the same thing. That was awful officiating. You see him very frustrated talking to Charles there. Tim Cindric is on his way back to the garage to calm his driver down.
We are going into a red flag situation, and you can see how livid Will Power is, because as of right now, he's dropped to 9th, and it could get a lot worse. So let's go back and show you exactly what happened.
Remember, 650 horsepower. Danica tries to get on the power, puts her foot on the pedal, back end just starts to come around. You can see everybody else still sliding around doing the same thing.
It collected Takuma Sato. It also collects Will Power. You see Anna Beatrice in this. Here's another angle.
Now hers is the first car that starts to come around, which starts the change reaction. And obviously Brian Barnhart, the chief steward, needs to make the decisions the best that he can, but you can see a little bit of moisture on the lens here. Not sure if that's from before. She just touched the throttle, Marty, and the back end came around.
On board with Briscoe. So Briscoe escapes the carnage, and there is Michael and his reaction. And of course, Will Power, you saw him getting out of the car. Here's a replay of that as he is just beside himself.
And frustrating. You know, he's not had the season that he wanted to. He's been so dominant, so many racetracks, had some bad luck, some bad calls. Situation at Mid-Ohio, just with an unfortunate scenario of being the wrong place at the wrong time with the yellow.
He was at 47 points the way it was, and now it's 57 points based on where he is right now. And if this race restarts, it's going to get even worse because there's still cars that could pass him for position.
Well, and you saw the frustration with him right there, and unfortunately that gesture is probably going to cost him. He's going to be a little lighter in the pocketbook, I think, by the time the officials get finished with him on that one.
Yes, and we apologize because obviously Will doesn't realize that we're live and on the air with all that.
And what he was seeing was the big screens here in the infield.
And their shots are sometimes a lot different than ours. We're hearing from IndyCar officials they're going to go back to the run order before the restart. I mean, let's get this clear before we put anything else out there.
We have those 5 cars up there on the lead lap, unfortunately.
Right now, you heard in the PA in the background, there are only 5 cars shown on the lead lap. There's Takuma Sato, as his team battled back after the contact with Dario Franchitti, kept him on the lead lap despite the 2 stops, and it looked like he was going to have a good run right up until this moment.
And for a driver and a veteran of road course racing and Formula One racing, he has taken to the ovals very, very well, and would not be surprised to see him win one of these before the year's out.
And he'll be the first to tell you who's really helped him, Tony Kanaan.
Absolutely. Tony's been a big boost to that team, not only just in helping the drivers, but also in setup to get those guys up to speed. So Tony has had a big boost of not only morale, but obviously results with that team.
Gary Gerald has caught up with Takuma Sato.
He's making that long walk back after an adventurous day here at this racetrack. Tell us about the frustration of being involved in an incident like you were that denies you a chance to get the win.
It was my fault. I was too close to Dario and had a debris in my eye, and there was tears, and there's no excuse for that. But I was too close, and he came on. I was close to them, and I'm sorry about that.
Have you had a conversation with Dario yet?
No, I just jumped out. And at the end of the day, we were looking strong, but the rain started. And under the condition of starting, it was all the crescendos and all the accordion stuff that the completely front of the low was this, how can I say?
Should this race have been restarted in your mind under these conditions?
It was a difficult call, but I think the moisture was maybe a bit too much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Takuma Sato takes the blame for Dario Franchitti contact, and I'm sure they'll have a conversation. And there is what's left of his car on the hook, heading back into the paddock area. And we still technically have 5 laps to go, but we're waiting for official word from IndyCar officials as to what is going to happen. There's the damage on Danica Patrick's car. Now, she is still shown not in the garage area, but right there on the pit lane. Some of the crew taking a look at the damage. It would not be raceable, obviously, but we're waiting to see what is going to happen as far as this race. Here is the restart one more time, and watch Danica. She goes around, and the chain reaction begins. For a second, Will Power was going to have minor damage until that contact right there with Ed Carpenter when he backed into the wall. On board with Danica.
Just a touch of the throttle so easily for the tires to spin and the back end to come around.
From Elio Castroneves' view. And he was managed to get through unscathed, as did his teammate Ryan Briscoe. And the drivers, of course, staying inside the cockpits, waiting to find out what is going to be happening here. In fact, all of us are.
In the situation here, all the drivers, I think, honestly, Marty, are trying to think whether we should continue with this, because they really know how slippery this racetrack is. And generally what happens in this scenario is that the race officials will ask the drivers through their crew chiefs about what the track conditions are like, and we're not sure if all that information got reported back to Brian before the decision was made to go green. So that's something that we'll try and find out for you, because drivers are the ones that are right there on the track. They're the ones that really give the best information.
You looked into the eyes of Ryan Hunter-Reay. Of course, we told you a little bit earlier, Ryan looking for his first win this year. That's one of the crew members from Team Penske heading back into the paddock area. Ryan's best finish this year, as we mentioned earlier, third. He did it twice at Toronto, and then, of course, last week at Mid-Ohio. A very unhappy Jimmy Vasser as the result of what happened to Takuma Sato in this last melee.
I was interested to hear Takuma Sato's take on that when it looked like his car was going straight down towards the restart when he and Dario got together there. He had something in his eye. Maybe that's what Dario was talking about, him just being a little bit too close to him on the restart. But can't wait to hear the outcome of that conversation between the two of those drivers.
You can see Jimmy very animated there as these guys are all frustrated.
Well, we talked about that team was going to leave. Jimmy told us this morning with all three cars to go off and do a test here with Tony Kanaan headed to Sebring to do some work there to get ready for the Baltimore race, and then the other drivers with EJ Vizo and Takuma Sato heading out to Sonoma to get ready for that race, which takes place later this season. And will they be able to go ahead and do all that right now, getting a lot of work done for the upcoming races?
So we are still under a red flag situation, and quite honestly, folks, we are waiting for IndyCar officials to give us some kind of indication as to what is going to happen here in this race with what is scheduled to be just 5 laps to go. Gary, what do you have down there on pit lane?
Well, we're checking in again with Michael Andretti. We heard the frustration and the emotion when your conversation with Rick DeBrule. In that time since, have you had an opportunity to talk to any of the officials or get any clarification?
No, they won't tell us what they're doing. Just really disappointed. I mean, then they throw the red. We would have won the race just in the under the yellow, but they're changing everything here. So it's really disappointing. Cost Danica. Hopefully it didn't cost Ryan. I'm hoping and praying that, we get a good restart and we still win this thing. But, it just, I don't know why they did what they did. It was just disappointing.
5 laps to go. Any instructions as far as Ryan is concerned in that number 1 spot if we get to go? And it seems like the rain has let up.
Yeah, we're going to get to go. He's just got to get the jump on the restart. So let's hope and pray he does. It's coming down to that. And,
Does this side-by-side restart business this year concern you now in this situation?
Well, it definitely gives the guy that's in second a better chance of passing, So, but it doesn't matter. That's part of the deal, which is fine. But it's a shame we were put in this position.
Thank you, Michael.
So Michael's still trying to figure out what's going to be happening, as is everybody here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. While we continue to wait, let's check in with Jamie Little.
Well, I'm standing outside the Penske lounge, as they call it, and Will Power is behind a closed door. They know that we're waiting for him. He's just very frustrated right now and doesn't want to get himself in any more trouble, but they will come out and talk to us after he can just cool down just a little bit, Marty.
Okay, Jamie, thank you very much for that. And that's what's left of his car back in the paddock area. Not a pretty sight, to say the least.
Penske started off the season very strong, did not have the Indianapolis 500 that we usually expect out of a Penske team, and there has been some events where they've been really off the mark, and qualifying has not been that good quite a few times for the team. We've not seen...
and we're hearing now that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Jamie has caught up with Will Power.
Well, and as I reported, I heard Will saying for 5 minutes, let's not go green because the rain is coming. Will, what is it like being in the cockpit when you're told you have to race in conditions like that?
We were begging him. I was begging him, please do not go green. it's too slippery. And from what Tim Cindric was saying, so was everyone else. Everyone was saying it.
And you were yelling at the officials, Brian Barnhart in particular. Are you going to go talk to him, and what will you say?
There's no use. He makes such bad calls all the time. This has got to be it. They cannot have this guy running the show, because that was the decision that put a lot of drivers in danger. And, you know, you saw how many people crashed on the front straight, and it was no condition to race in. Shame on him.
Came back from a lap down. You gained 20 points on Dario. At that point, you were 5th. What was it like at that start when it went green?
It was just really slippery. You know, and Danica lost it, so I reacted and went this way, and I saw Briscoe coming, so I reacted, spun, and then got hit by like 3 or 4 people, and that hurt too. Man, I just can't believe that they make decisions like that. I mean, what are those guys up there doing? They have Alonso. He's raced. He'd never race in these conditions. So to me, it was disgraceful.
Those officials that you were yelling at on the radio are the same ones that hand down fines and penalties. Do you think any are coming your way?
Yeah, I know that I lost my temper, and that was bad of me to do that, but I couldn't help it. I was so emotional about it because we had such a good day, and we begged them not to do it.
Big points implication here. Of course, Dario Franchitti out, but Will Power is chasing him in the standings. Marty.
Well, and we are still waiting to hear from IndyCar officials about what is going to happen. We're attempting to get Brian Barnhart into our booth here. He is right next door and still in heavy discussion with the other officials of the IZOD IndyCar Series. And if we can get him to come over and explain exactly what is going to happen, we'll do that as quickly as we can. Let's listen to Ryan Hunter-Reay on the radio on the restart.
This is stupid. I can't even put the power down. Brian, just deal with it and do the best job you can. No, he got a better launch because it's wet and I couldn't put the power down at all. Second gear, just flying the rear of the car.
And of course, that was right before we went back to green flag racing, and you saw the end result. Now, Ryan was able to get through it unscathed, and we are in this red flag situation, waiting to find out what is going to happen with the results of this race.
As we talked about before, the drivers do report back, and there's the checkered flag.
Checkered flag is out. Now that means Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to be your race winner. So this race is now officially over. And again, we're still trying to get Brian Barnhart in here to discuss with us what happened on the track and how this decision all came about. But we are now being told this race is over. Ryan Hunter-Reay picks up the win, and Michael Andretti is now a lot happier than he was just a few minutes ago. For Ryan, it will be his 5th career win, 2nd on an oval. Remember, he won back at Milwaukee in 2004. 3rd different Andretti Autosport driver to visit victory lane this year. Marco won at Iowa, and of course Conway won back at Long Beach. And there is Ryan Hunter-Reay, and I guarantee you he is thrilled that this is over, because he will pick up the win. Gary, you've caught up with Michael?
Once again, how much does this salve the frustration and the disappointment of earlier?
It helps a lot. A win's a win. You know, I'm just so happy for DHL and Sundrop and Circle K. I mean, they've been hanging in there with us, and finally got Ryan in victory lane. You know, 3 cars for this team in victory lane this year. The only team to do that. I mean, I'm so proud of everybody, and so happy that they made the decision they did. And thank you, God.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
So you can hear the sigh of relief in Michael Andretti's voice, and I'm sure that we're going to probably get the same reaction from Ryan Hunter-Reay once we get a chance to talk to him. And let's go to our Honda victory lane and find out how the winner feels. And Rick DeBrule, it's all yours.
Yeah, not the normal victory lane. We're standing up here at the front of the grid. He's getting a hug from Michael Andretti. He just got a hug from Marco Andretti just a moment ago. All right, we're going to talk about the win in a second, but you can walk us through what you were thinking and feeling when you were told you had to start this race under the conditions where it was so wet out there.
Well, I couldn't even warm the tires. It was so wet on the track, you know. I don't think the fans at home really understand how wet it was. And with these cars, we only have a small contact patch, so the Firestone contact patch is amazing. But when there's some rain down, there's nothing there. I couldn't even put the power down in 2nd or 3rd gear. So wrong move on race control's part, but man, we had such a great car today. It was a blast to drive it. I love these short ovals. A lot of fun. We would have liked to have just finished it under green or whatever. It was a strange day, but sometimes racing is strange.
All right, for the last 4 races before this one, you've kind of been slowly pegging away at a couple of thirds, you had top 5s, top 10s. Did you know it was this close? Did you feel it?
I knew we had a good car this weekend. I mean, in practice, we've been really making the car better and better, and the guys have done such a good job. You know, we just kept at it. We have great chemistry on this team, and it's a great result. I'm sorry to see, I think where the race turned was Dario and Sato getting together. I don't know who was at fault there or what it was. That's for them to decide. But, man, in traffic, the car was so good. And these guys deserve this win. It's for them. And Dad at home, how's it going?
Very happy.
Wish it was in a little bit of a different way, but we'll absolutely take it after the year we've had.
It always looks as a victory in the record books. Remember his second oval victory, the first time in an Indy car.
There's Mike Conway congratulating him, and a very happy Ryan Hunter-Reay as we come upstairs into our broadcast booth, and joining us is President of Competition for the IZOD IndyCar Series, Brian Barnhart. Brian, take us through the process of what is going to be the official results. Who's going to finish behind Ryan Hunter-Reay now?
Well, the official result will be the positioning order prior to the last attempted restart. That's going to be an aborted restart. Obviously, the track conditions were not in a position that was safe for us to run. I couldn't agree more with what Ryan said. It's a mistake on race control's part, but again, based on the information we had, we're getting reports back from the observers, from our track safety people, said there wasn't a surface change, said it was a raceable condition. Obviously, the attempted restart showed that wasn't the case, so it was a mistake on race control's part, and the only right thing to do and the fair thing to do is go back to the running order prior to that restart, because we ended up tearing up some race cars we shouldn't have.
Okay, that's obviously going to make Will Power feel better, but before he knew this, obviously he's hot under the collar. Will there be any ramifications, because these guys were venting before they knew that you were going to change this result and go back to that?
Well, I mean, we haven't even looked at that yet, Marty. Obviously, it's we're trying to make sure we're doing the right thing here based on the conditions of the finish of this race. And when you look at what these guys are dealing with out there, with their lives and safety on the line out there, their emotions and adrenaline is going to run hard. So we'll take a look at that after the fact, but that's secondary compared to doing the right thing for the finishing order.
And Brian, were you getting reports from the drivers up to your head control there to get into the
No, and that's the hard part about it. I know a lot of them are saying, but we didn't have a single pit tech call and say that we couldn't go because they were radioing in. Obviously, up top on the spotter stand, we knew there was light moisture on the racetrack, but we were counting on at that point in time the observers around the racetrack and our track safety, and they said there was no surface change and it's good to go. And race control, we can only make the decisions based on the information that's provided to us. Clearly, in this case, it was not good information, not accurate, and wasn't the right thing to do.
And I know from running underneath you, you're all about safety. So it sounds like if you had got that information from the drivers that were in the cockpit, then you would have made a different decision.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd have never tried that, and that was so obvious as soon as you called it. It's almost one thing if one driver might have spun wheels or had it might not, but when 3 of them go that quick, it's pretty obvious it was a wrong call.
Well, Brian, thank you for taking the time and explaining that, and I think that helps ease a lot of questions that were cropping up, obviously, during the red flag period. I'm going to throw a curveball because I don't have communication directly to the truck. Do we have the results? And thank you, guys. Here is what we have, and there is what it will be. Now, Oriole Servio will finish second, Scott Dixon third, James Hinchcliffe, Will Power, then Danica Patrick, Takuma Sato seventh, Ryan Briscoe eighth, Charlie Kimball ninth, and Vitor Mirra in the 10th position. So that is going to tighten up the points position, as that will make it a 47-point difference. And that wraps up today's action. We'll be back in action in Las Vegas for the season finale October 16th at 3 o'clock on ABC. Coming up next, it's ABC World News or your local news. Thanks for watching ABC or ESPN on ABC. I'm Marty Reed for our entire ESPN crew. Till we meet again.
This has been a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.